Okay, fine. So I will quickly start with what we had done in the previous lecture, a very short revision, and then I will start with today's agenda. Okay. So on the screen, you can see that we had seen some topics in the previous lectures, such as in lecture number 11, we had started off with the various block cipher modes. We initially started off distinguishing what exactly is a block cipher and how is it different from a stream cipher. And later on, we saw the architecture or structure of a basic block cipher, followed by the various modes of block cipher. That is the various operation modes. We saw there are five modes in total, and we discussed three modes in lecture 11. We completed with the remaining two modes in lecture 12, and we started off with the Feastal cipher. So in today's lecture, we are going to start in detail what exactly is the DES or the data encryption standard. So without wasting much time, I would simply start with the data encryption standard diagram, or the very first diagram that you should understand. I will quickly go through it once again. We had seen this diagram in the previous lecture. We are meeting after a gap of one day. So I hope you would be able to recollect what we had done. If you remember, we had seen that the plain text is basically of 64 bits size, and it is divided into two parts. That is the left plain text and the right plain text, each of size 32 bits. Correct? Then what happens next? The next is they are basically subjected to certain set of rounds or certain functions, and at the end of 16 rounds, after swapping and doing some operations and all, after 16 rounds, we get the final ciphertext. Correct? So without wasting much time, let's see what this function is all about. We saw that the function consists of few operations, few steps. Okay, so this exactly is what I was talking about. The function consists of these four steps. The very first step is key transformation, then expansion permutation, then S box substitution, and finally P box permutation. So whatever being the result of these, they will be XORed with the left plain text. And the result of this operation will be your new right plain text. So basically what we are doing, we are performing XOR and swap. Yes or no? Because the previous left plain text now becomes the right plain text, and the previous right plain text now becomes the left plain text, obviously after some operations. Am I clear? Yes or no? Kindly let me know. So after every operation is done, we perform XOR and swap. Am I clear with the basic understanding of this, the basic understanding of this peaceful architecture? Because this is the main fundamental concept based on which DES is based, right? DES is designed. Am I clear? Can we move ahead? Kindly let me know. Okay, fine. So let's start off with today's topic, that is data encryption standard. So we already saw what exactly are the rounds in data encryption standard. This is how the overall architecture looks like. The 64-bit plain text is subjected to an initial permutation. I will talk about this much in detail. The output of this initial permutation is divided into two parts, the left plain text and the right plain text, each of 32 bits size. Fine. Then it goes through 16 rounds where the initial key will be of 56 bits. And from that 56 bit, 16 different sub keys, or we can say 16 different keys for different rounds will be generated. And each and every key will be provided to each and every round. And whatever be the final output, that will be your 64-bit ciphertext. Now, one thing I told you that out of the 64-bit key, every 8th bit is discarded for parity check purpose, and hence we get an effective key. We can call that the DES uses a key of size 56 bits. Am I clear? So in the exam, if any question is asked, what is the size of the keys of DES? It should be 56 and not 64. Is it clear? Fine. Any doubts with this A division, B division? Kindly let me know. Then I will move ahead. Fine, fine. Okay. So this was the overall architecture. Now let's see what exactly are the various rounds and how are we going to move on with it. So very first thing, this is the only description that I have just now explained using the diagram. So what we need to do is The very first thing is the very first step, that is your initial permutation. As per your diagram, initial permutation is nothing but we have a matrix. Okay, so what we do is according to some positioning. For example, over here, as you can see, instead of 1 over here, we are having 48. So what exactly this means is whichever bit is present at the 48th position, that should now come to the first position. Am I clear? So now, as you can see, this is an 8 by 4 matrix. So it would be of size 32. Similar kind of an operation will happen for LPT as well. That is a left plain text as well. So as a result, what will happen is you will be having two separate values, LPT and RPT. Each will be having 32 bits and the combined will be of 64 bits. So as you know, as per this diagram, one second. Yeah, as per this diagram, the 64-bit plain text is subjected to initial permutation. Now I have RPT. Now the 64-bit plain text is subjected to initial permutation. Now I have shown you RPT separately. Now in practice, it can change. You can have a 64-bit table also. That is, you can have an 8 by 8 table or whatever you wish. Okay, or 12 by 4 table. Sorry, 8 by 8 table is must because it has to be a square, right? Next, what happens is once you are done with the initial permutation, you have to divide it into left plain text and right plain text. Am I clear with this? I have only shown you the RPT part over here because we are only concerned with the RPT. Yes or no? Because all the operations are being performed on the right plain text and those are being XORed with the left plain text. Yes or no? Am I clear? So intentionally going slow because this is a very important concept and you should have a thorough understanding of all these things in detail. Okay, so just have a look. Whichever bit is at 48th position, that will now be at the first position. Whichever bit is at the 57th position, that will now be your second bit, and so on. So as a result, you will get a 32-bit RPT, right plain text. Am I clear? Is it clear so far? Do let me know. If you have any queries, kindly let me know. Fine, can I move ahead? Yeah, fine. Okay. Now is my screen visible? I have just now started presenting. Kindly let me know. Okay, fine. Yeah, so I was just saying that you have to start off with the initial plain text and then subject that to the initial permutation. And finally, after the initial permutation is done, basically this is just a scrambling or jumbling sort of thing that happens where you are trying to make the process even difficult for the attacker, right? So the attacker would find it difficult to crack the original plain text. Now, this is a standard table, obviously, but in the exam, it is not expected from you to draw the exact table word by word, bit by bit. So you can randomly add any values, just make sure it lies between 1 to 64 and none of the values should be repeated. Fine, correct? Okay, so let's jump to the next step, that is your key transformation. So as you can see, now we have completed the very first step. Our very first step was initial permutation. Clear. And after that, what was the next step? The next step was basically dividing it into LPT, RPT that we have already done. So from here, our main task begins. That is round 1 to round 16. So round 1 and round 16 are nothing but the operations that carry on inside the function block. So this is nothing but the function block I have shown over here. So we need to start with key transformation, then expansion permutation, S box and P box. Fine. So I will start with key transformation next. So what happens in key transformation is, now as I had told you that we have an initial 56-bit key. Yes or no? Yes, come on, let me know. The 56-bit key is the effective key that is being used in DES. Fine, B division. Yes. So what happens is in DES or data encryption standard, it is a standard obviously, so we can't change the specifications even by a single bit. So what happens, for each round a 56-bit key is available. From this 56-bit key, a different 48-bit sub key is generated. Just pay attention properly, don't get confused. 56-bit key is the original key, out of which a 48-bit sub key is generated during each round using a process called as key transformation. Things are going to get confusing a lot, so kindly let me know if at any point of time you are not getting that concept. Fine. So I'm repeating once again, from that 56-bit key, a different 48-bit sub key is generated during each round using a process called as key transformation. Am I clear? The same thing you must have seen in the diagram also. I had told you that initially the 56-bit key is used and different keys are used in each of these rounds. Yes or no? So this is nothing but that particular key I was talking about. Fine. We are having 16 different keys and these keys are known as sub keys. Am I clear? And this is of size 48 bits. Now you would ask me that if I am performing a 48, if I'm performing an XOR operation, obviously the right plain text is of size 32 bits. How can I XOR it with a 48-bit key? Yes or no? This is the most common doubt you must be having. Yes or no? Kindly let me know. Because now we are saying that we need a 48-bit sub key for each of the rounds. So how am I supposed to XOR a 48-bit value with a 32-bit value? So for that, we have these many operations in between. That is key transformation. Jimit, it's a standard. That's why I told you. Na? I will explain how we got that 48. I will explain. Don't worry about that. Just keep in mind that out of those 50, 52, 56-bit values, we are getting the 48-bit values. Fine. Clear so far? I will tell you how we get that 48 bit. This is again a standard. I will tell you. Fine. The only concern is just keep in mind that for each of the internal rounds, only 48 bits are used and not 56 bits. Fine. So let's move ahead. I will tell you now how we got that 48 bits. Okay, just have a look. What happens is for this to happen, the original 56-bit key is divided into two halves. This is where the things get tricky. So kindly pay attention. The original 56-bit key is divided into two halves, each of 26 bits respectively. Clear till here? Then what happens? These halves are circularly left shifted by one or two positions depending on the round number. I have already shown over here that if the round number is 1, 2, 9 or 16, there will be a circular shift of one position. So if the keys are like this, suppose these are the keys, this is a 28-bit key, this is the next 28-bit key. So what happens is, if the round number is 1, there will be a shift of one bit, one position. So what will happen? This bit will cyclically left shift and be written at the end. Am I clear? But if the round numbers are 3, 5 or whatever, except these four values, then there will be a shift of two positions to the left. So again, this will happen once more. Am I clear now? Is it clear this much? Is this much part clear with you? Kindly let me know. I'm again explaining once again. Pay attention. The original 56-bit key is divided into two parts: the LPT, sorry, the left key and the right key. Now forget about the left plain text, right plain text. I'm talking about the key this time. The original 56-bit key is divided into two parts, the left part and the right part, each of size 28 bits. Now what happens, depending upon the round number, the keys will be shifted to the left. If the round numbers are 1, 2, 9 or 16, they will be shifted to the left by one position. Similarly, if the round numbers are anything other than this, the keys will be shifted by two positions. And then what we do is we select the 48 bits according to this table. You don't need to write exactly everything in detail. In the exam, it is not expected that you go in depth of each and every topic. I'm just explaining how the things work. Otherwise, you might have questions in your mind, like Jimit had, how we get the 48 bits. This is the table. So just have a look. After rotating, after circularly left shifting these 28 bits and these 28 bits, we will have positions like this 1 to 28 and then 29 to 48, if I'm not wrong. Yes. So what we will do is check this 1 to 56. Sorry. So what we will do is we will simply do transposition or permutation as we had already done previously also. Am I clear? Just make a point. The first part of the key will be 28. The next part will be from 29 to 56. Am I clear? Then what will happen is after you have performed that cyclic left shift, the 14th position bit will be placed at the first position. Similarly, the bit which is present at 17th position will now be your second position. Yes or no? Kindly let me know how many bits are here in this table, how many rows, and how many columns. This will give you an answer. Kindly check this table and let me know. Obviously, Jimit, if I'm circularly left shifting, then the entire bits will shift, right? The positions will shift and the bit positions will obviously change. Yes or no? Correct? So after that, what will happen? You have now two halves of 28 bits each. Total is 56. So the positions will be from 1 to 28, 29 to 56. And now, once you are done with that, just transpose, or we can say that just permute the positions according to this table. Am I clear now? Yes or no? Kindly let me know. So whatever bit is present at the 14th position, that will now come at the first position. Whatever bit was present at the 17th position, that will now come at the second position, and so on. So now it is a 12 by 4 matrix. So at the end, how many bits you will get? It will be 48. 12 by 4, right? Yes or no? Correct. So you will get a matrix of size 48. It simply means it will be a 48-bit key. So now what we are doing is, once we are shifting it to the left by these many positions, we are making it more jumbled up. So we are making use of the same 56-bit keys, but in each of the rounds, different sub keys are generated. Yes or no? So we are increasing the complexity of attacking this cipher. Am I correct? Am I clear? Kindly let me know about that. This was a very first step, and this should be very clear. I have written step one, step two. These are nothing but the internal rounds I'm talking about, the rounds which take inside that function block. Clear? So we have completed the first step, that is your key transformation. Now, if you see, after this first step is done, we have got a 48-bit value with us. What is next? We need to perform some step which is called as expansion permutation. Now, can any one of you tell me what is this? What is the significance of this round? If you're following this lecture properly, I expect an answer from you. Why are we doing some sort of expansion? Is any answer available from you people? Kindly let me know about that. Yes, come on. Forget about that permutation part. Just focus on that expansion part. What is the thing that we are expanding and why? Yes, come on. I expect answers. I hope the first step is clear. The key is transformed. We got a 48-bit key. As few minutes back, I had only explained that we cannot XOR a 48-bit value with a 32-bit value. Yes or no? Jay, you are partially correct. We are working on the right plain text now. So we need to expand the RPT. Jimit is correct. We need to expand the right plain text and make it 48 bits so that we can carry out the operations between the right plain text and the key. Am I correct? Yes or no? Now is it clear? Come on, give me your answers. Don't sit idle. Fine. So once we make the right plain text of 48 bits, I'm just giving you a summary first, then I will explain the entire steps. Once we make the right plain text of 48 bits, we can perform some operations between them. We will get the result of that step as a 48-bit value. Yes or no? Obviously, we'll get the result as a 48-bit value. But if you look at the bigger picture, at the end, we again want the answer back in terms of 32 bits. Yes or no? Yes or no? At the end, we again want the answers in 32 bits. Correct? Otherwise, we won't be able to XOR it with the left plain text. Fine. So for that purpose, we will make use of the third step, that is S box substitution. So when I will reach there, I will explain what is that. So for the time being, just focus on expansion permutation. That is expanding the right plain text from 32 bits to 48 bits so that we can make a combination or make an operation on the key. Fine with this so far? Can I move ahead? Kindly give me an acknowledgement. Or in case if you're having any more doubts, kindly let me know. Yes, A division, B division, why are you silent people? Kindly let me know. Okay, getting answers from B. What about A? If you have not understood, let me know. I won't get a response otherwise. Yeah, Praful, which step? Praful, kindly let me know which step you want me to repeat. 48. Okay. So basically, what is happening over here is we are having the 56-bit key, and we want to make sure that whatever result we are getting is of 48 bits, right? It is according to a standard. So what we are doing is we are dividing the 56-bit keys into two halves of 28 bits each, and depending upon the round number, we are shifting both the 28 bits half 28 bit halves. So what we are doing is, if the round number is 1, 2, 9, or 16, we are circularly left shifting it by one position. If it is any other round numbers, then we are shifting it by two positions, and after that we will get two halves of 28 bits each. After the shift is done, what we need to do is, depending upon the position of that bits, for example, the 14th bit will now be copied into the first position, the 17th bit will now be copied into the second position, and so on. So if you can see over here, it is a 12 by 4 matrix, that is 48 bits. So at the end of key transformation, we got a key for that round or a sub key to be of 48 bits. And after this, if you see carefully in the diagram, it has been mentioned that the right plain text has to be obviously computed or operated with this key. So now the right plain text is obviously of size 32 bits, right? We can't make an operation of a 32-bit value with a 48-bit value. So for that purpose, we need to expand the right plain text to 48 bits. And that is what we are going to learn next in the step expansion permutation. Clear with this? Now, any doubts? Let me know so that I can start with the next step, which is expansion permutation. Fine now? Okay. So let's focus on this expansion permutation diagram first, and it will make things clear. This is your right plain text, for example. I've written it like this. So basically it is 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the first 4 bits. So what we are doing is we are dividing the 32-bit right plain text into bits of 4 bits size. That is, in short, there would be 1, 2 till 8. Am I clear? So what we are doing is we are dividing the 32-bit right plain text into 8 blocks of 4 bits each. Is the diagram clear? Yes or no? Yes, come on, give me your answers. Fine. So what we are doing is we are dividing the right plain text of size 32 bits into 8 blocks of 4 bits each. Now what we are doing, if you see the diagram carefully, we are copying the bits into 8 blocks of 6 bits each. See the diagram carefully. We are having some plain registers or some plain temporary variables which are now of size 6 bits. So what we are doing, from 4 bits, that is from 4 into 8, we are expanding them into 6 into 8. So from 32 bits they become 48 bits. But how? The architecture is like this. The first, second, third, and fourth bit of each of the blocks are simply copied into the second, third, fourth, and fifth block of that corresponding block, fifth positions of that corresponding block. If it is clear, yes or no? See the diagram carefully and check the arrows, check the directions. The first, second, third, and fourth of each block, each bits of each block are copied into second, third, fourth, and fifth positions of each corresponding block. Fine. Now, what about the first and the sixth bit? It is very simple. The sixth bit is nothing but the first bit of the next block. Am I clear? Check this diagram carefully. The sixth bit, that is this bit, is nothing but the first bit of the next block. So it is basically a daisy chaining sort of thing, which happens like this. Am I clear? Kindly have a look and let me know if this is clear. Yes, A division, B division, clear? Fine. Similarly, what would be the first bit of the 6-bit block? It is nothing but the last bit of the previous block. Am I clear? Yes or no? Take this diagram. If I talk about this bit, it will be nothing but the last bit of the previous block. So what we are doing in short, we are repeating 16 bits. Yes or no? Am I clear? We are repeating 16 bits. Yes or no? We initially have 32 bits, but we are adding 16 bits to the entire cipher so that it becomes a 48-bit block. So this is the algorithm for that. The first bit of this 6-bit block is nothing but the last bit of the previous block. Similarly, the last bit of this 6-bit block is nothing but the first bit of the next block, and so on. Similarly, over here we are coming to an end, so we have to simply loop it back. That is what should be the last bit. It is nothing but the first bit of the first block. And similarly over here, if you see carefully, this first bit will be nothing but the last bit of the last block. Is it clear now? I hope this diagram is self-explanatory. Kindly acknowledge. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So this is this is the very important step, that is expansion permutation. You can refer the theory. I will obviously share it with you. By the way, I have not yet uploaded the video lectures. I will upload it by either tomorrow maximum. Okay, tomorrow evening I will upload all the video lectures. But I have uploaded the notes also, so you can refer the notes. And I have already uploaded it in Classroom, so you can refer the notes by then. I will upload the video by Friday. Fine. So let's move on to the next step. Now, as I had told you, what happens is now we have an RPT which is of size 48 bits. Yes or no? The temporary variable. But at the end, if you see the diagram, the LPT is of how much size? It is of size 32 bits. So obviously we can't XOR these two values. So we need to again trans transform the RPT into a 32-bit block. Yes or no? This is where people start asking questions that अगर पता ही था कि 32 बिट में करना है तो 48 में कन्वर्ट क्यों किया? Very simple question, very obvious question. Yes or no? So if at all we want the output to be in 32 bits, why actually we started off converting it into a 48 bit? Yes or no? The same question might have arise in your mind also. Yes or no? Yes, come on, give me answers. Yes, students, A division. That's a very obvious question, right? That if we want the final answer to be in terms of 32 bits only, then why did we opt for the 48-bit operation? It's very simple. We can't simply send the value directly to the user without doing any operations. The operations that you see in between is nothing but increasing the complexity of the entire problem. So what we are doing is we are increasing the difficulty from the attacker's point of view, so that cracking the ciphertext is not that easy. Am I clear? So we are adding some difficulty for the attacker to crack my ciphertext. That's why we are adding these many steps in between. From 32, we converted that into 48, and now after the next step, that is the SBox substitution, we will again get back a 32-bit value. So at the end, we know that we want to XOR the LPT with the output of the function. So for that we need this step number 3, which is what we call as SBox substitution. Am I clear now? So in the Viva, if any question is asked, that if we want the final answer as a 32-bit value, what is the significance of expansion permutation then? So you should have the answer with you. Fine. So can we move ahead next? Kindly let me know. Okay, come on, give me your answers. We have 30 minutes left, so I'm full. We would be able to complete this topic. Fine. Okay. So let's start with SBox substitution. I will show you the diagram. This will make things clear. That's why I have drawn all the diagrams, so that it makes each and everything clear to you. So now we know that we have the input of the size 48 bits and we want the output of size 32 bits, right? So this is the entire architecture for that. Again, we know that The is in the form of 6-bit values, and we want to convert that into a 4-bit value. Again, the same calculation, 6-bit into 8, and it will become 4-bit into 8. Am I clear? Yes or no? Kindly let me know. Yes, fine. B division? Yes, kindly let me know your answers. Okay, fine. Okay, then have a look what happens. There are in total 8 S boxes. Again, I'm repeating the same thing. You don't need to by heart each and every S box. You can simply mention that there are 8 S boxes, and you can start describing the entire process. That would be fine. So in short, there are 8 S boxes. It expects a 6-bit value and converts every 6-bit value into a 4-bit value output. Am I clear? Let me show you one of the S boxes. If I am having the diagram, let me show you. I guess I have not copied the S box. Yeah, yeah. Okay, this is the S box. Yeah. I will explain how we get the answer, but this is the example of one of the S boxes. Now you only tell me how many values can be accommodated over here. There are 4 rows, obviously. How many columns are there? Kindly check it and tell me. How many columns and how many rows are there? Obviously, there are 4 rows, correct? There are 16 columns, obviously. So 16 into 4, how much? 64. So 64 values can be written over there. But just have a look. What is the maximum value or decimal value that has been written inside this? What is the maximum value that has been written in the table? 15. Is it clear? Yes or no? B division. Jay, Swardha, Simran, Rishikesh. Correct. The maximum value that has been written inside it is 15. So 15 can be represented using how many bits? You only tell me. 15 can be represented using how many bits? 4 bits. 2 raised to 4, 16. So 0 to 15 is the maximum value, right? So if you see it from a theoretical point of view, we can represent a 60, we can represent a 4-bit, sorry, we can represent a 4-bit value over here. So what exactly happens is, if you check the table carefully, 15 is repeated 4 times. Check the table carefully. You will see that 15 is written at 4 places. Yes or no? Yes. I can see it. Yes, 15 is repeated 4 places. So basically what happens, each and every value is repeated 4 times in this table. So at the max, you need only 4 bits to represent any of the values present in the table. Yes or no? At the max, you only need 4 bits. So what happens? The input is in the form of 6 bits and it is converted to a 4-bit value. So what we are doing is we have to look at the intersection of rows and columns, and somehow we will get a conclusion that whatever is the value present at that intersection, that 4-bit value is the new output for that. Let me explain it once again. 6 bits are used as input. Obviously, they are the inputs, and the output will be a 4-bit value. Is it clear now? Kindly let me know. The input will be of 6 bits. Now I will tell you how to make use of those 6 bits and convert that into 4 bits. That's a totally different question. But I just want an explanation. I just want an acknowledgement from your side that you are getting this or not. There are 8 different S boxes. I have shown you only a single S box, and I have also told you the background story of each of the S boxes. Right. So now let me show you how to convert that 6-bit value into an 8-bit value. What we do is we consider the first bit and the sixth bit as the row number. So obviously, whatever be the value of the first bit and the sixth bit, for example, it can be 10, it can be 11, it can be 00, it can be 01. These are the only 4 options possible. So the first bit and the sixth bit will give me a 2-bit row number. And whatever bit is present at 2, 3, 4, 5, that will give me a 4-bit column number. So I have to check the intersection of that row and the column. Whichever value is present at that intersection, that will be my new 4-bit value. Isn't it great? Yes or no? Did you understand this? How we got this? So to explain this any further, I have taken an example. For example, the 6-bit value is 101101, right? The 6-bit value is 101101. So the first bit and the last bit will be used as the row numbers. So in this case, the first and last bit are nothing but 1 1. Am I clear? So it becomes 1 1 as in which row? The third row or the 0 1 2 3. Am I clear? In binary, 1 1 is nothing but 3 only, right? Yes or no? Yes, A division. Okay. What about B? Am I making sense? You have to consider the first bit and the sixth bit. In this case, both are 1. So it will be 1 1. And 1 1 in decimal or in binary, it is basically 3, right? So you have to select 0 1 2 and 3. So that is the fourth row in this case. Otherwise, in this format, it is starting from 0. So it would be 0 1 2 3. Correct? So now this particular fourth row will be selected. And over here, what is happening? 0 1 1 0. What is the value corresponding to that? 0 1 1 0. 0 1 1 0 is 6, if I'm not wrong. Yes or no? So you will select that particular column. Number is 6. So we know that it will be 0 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. So I will select the column with the label 6. And whichever value I'm getting at the intersection, that will be my 4-bit value. In this case, it is a 1, so it will be 0 0 0 1. Am I clear? Yes or no? Kindly let me know your answers. Kindly let me know if you got this or not. Okay, I'm getting answers from A division. What about B division? Only these 4 5 people are giving answers. What about others? I am getting answers from Simran, Rishikesh, Swardha, Jay sometimes. But what about others? Are you people not getting or what? Okay, fine. So I hope you got the understanding of how we got this 32-bit value from a 48-bit value. So the same thing will happen for the entire set of inputs. I have just shown you the first S box. The same thing happens for the remaining S boxes, and when at the end we get all the 4-bit values, we concatenate all those 4-bit values over here, and at the end we will get a 32-bit output. Am I clear? So this is what happens in the S box substitution. So now you will tell me that we have got a 32-bit value. So now what is the need to go any further? Well, we we are still not satisfied with the accuracy. We are still not satisfied with the strength of this cipher. So what we are doing is we are just adding one more additional step. You have to write it. It is not additional. In fact, you have to do one more final permutation over here. This is nothing but p box permutation. What happens in p box permutation is very simple. You simply follow this table over here. Again, you don't need to mug up everything. You don't need to by heart everything. You can write any values over here. For example, check this table. It is a straightforward permutation table. Whatever position, whatever value you're having at the 16th position, that will be now your first bit. Whatever bit you're having at the 7th position, that will now be your second bit, and so on. And this will go till 32. I know it is, I guess it is obvious now. Why 32? Because we are having a 32-bit input, right? Am I clear now? Yes or no? Kindly let me know if it is clear so that I can move ahead and close this topic. Fine. Okay. So just have a look at it once again. What else is left? I have drawn the same diagram. I have copied the same diagram over here also, just to avoid scrolling. So I will just summarize each and every step. The 32-bit plaintext was given as input to this function. What we got is we got a 48-bit round key, or we can say a sub key. Okay. From this 48-bit value, now we know that we can't compare a 32-bit value with a 48-bit value. So to do that, what we did, we actually expanded the 32-bit RPT. I'm writing all those points over here to a 48-bit value. And we know how to do it. Yes, we add 16 extra bits, but don't write it straight away that we add 16 extra bits. Obviously, it has to go some certain set of operations we have just now seen. Yes, and after that, we know that this 48-bit value and this 48-bit value can be compared together, but we need to convert that into a 32-bit value. Yes or no? Because at the end, we are going to XOR it with the LPT. Fine? Yes or no? Correct? So that is what we have done in this step, 32-bit SBox substitution. And finally, we did a P-box permutation based on a table. So I'm simply writing transposition over here. Fine. I'm writing S boxes, 8 S boxes. Clear with this? What is the next step? Now, my output of this function block is XORed with the LPT. This is what we had seen in the Feastel architecture also. So I can clearly say that data encryption standard is purely based on the Feastel architecture. Yes or no? Just check this diagram. Once we move out of that function block, we need to XOR it. Yes or no? XOR, correct? So that is what we are going to do over here. Okay. So it is XOR and swap. XOR is basically outside the function block. So if you want to write it as a different step, that is also fine. If you want to write it inside, that is also fine, no issues. So what happens is in each round, after moving out of the function block, we need to XOR your LPT with the output of step number 4. Yes or no? Come on, let me know if you are getting an understanding of this so far. XOR with LPT. Fine? Clear? Any more explanation? Any more doubts? Kindly let me know. Anyone is having doubt? No doubt. Okay, fine. So after XORing, what happens? It's a simple, straightforward bit by bit XOR. And the last step is final permutation. Again, this is the very last step. After all the rounds are performed, just check this diagram once. After all the rounds are complete over here, what happens? 64-bit plain text as input. We perform the initial permutation of LPT, the RPT, and the function blocks begin. Okay, what we did from that 56-bit key, every 8th bit is discarded for parity purpose, and the 56-bit key is transformed in each of the internal rounds using the method known as key transformation. And once we get the sub key for each of the rounds, we use it to encrypt the data further for that round. So after the 16th round, we have to permute whatever ciphertext we get in that particular round and generate the final 64-bit ciphertext. Again, this permutation step is added to increase the difficulty of cracking the particular particular uh, ciphertext. So again, you need to follow this table. Again, it's a standard, but you are free to write any value in the exam. At least it should be till 64 and no values should repeat. So you can see it is a 4 by, I guess, how much? 4 by 16, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's a 4 by 16 table. In some of the books, it might be 8 by 8. So it doesn't matter. Whatever is it, you can refer any of the books. The standard is same, just the way of writing it might be different. Okay, so at the end, you will get a 64-bit value, and this 64-bit value is nothing but your ciphertext, final ciphertext. Am I clear? Is this concept clear now? If you are having any doubts or you want me to repeat any one particular step, kindly let me know. We still have 15 minutes, so I can move ahead with the next topic if you're not having any doubt. Okay. What about A division? So in the exam, you have to write it accordingly as per a 10 marks question or 20 marks, whatever might be asked. So you don't need to draw all of these tables, you don't need to draw all of these diagrams, but at least you need this particular detailed step diagram, that is a detailed diagram of DES, and one or two more diagrams, that is this one, the S box, how the S boxes are created and how this expansion permutation is done. That's it. Okay. Any doubts with this? Can we move ahead? Do let me know. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm getting one doubt from Jimit. Okay. Yeah. See over here. If I am in round number one, okay. If I am currently in round number one, then I have to shift by one position, and I have to use the same key for that round as the sub key. Once I move out of that round, that is, it's basically a for loop for from one equal to from key is equal to 1 to 16. That is what you have to do. 0 to 15, whatever you do. Okay, so based upon the iteration value, based upon I value, you have to choose the shift. If it is 1, round number is 1, it will be a shift by 1. If the round number is 2, again shift will be by 1. If the round number is 3, then you have to shift it by 2 positions. Am I clear now, Jimit? I guess you had this doubt. Fine now. So if you're having any doubts, you can ask me in between. Right? Okay. So let me move on with the next concept. I will just give a overview of this. The next concept is double DES and triple DES. Obviously, you might now wonder, DES itself is so huge, so elaborate. What is the need of double and triple DES? It's the same concept. If you uh, people don't get satisfied easily with one of the with the things they have. So what happens is, if you're having an algorithm, you try to improve it further. Right, the same thing happens over here. You're having this algorithm which provides you a pretty good secrecy or pretty good encryption, but again the only drawback of this is it simply has 56 bits as the key. Or if you say the effective length of the sub key is just 48 bits, yes or no? So when this algorithm came into existence, it was very difficult to crack because we didn't have access to uh, because we didn't have access to what you can say huge computing power or fast computing power. So that is the reason at that point of time when this cipher came into existence commercially, it was very difficult to crack. But nowadays we have computers, supercomputers, or we can say quantum computers that can break this cipher easily within few minutes or few seconds. So here is where the picture changes completely. So the researchers thought of improving the existence of DES algorithm by improving the key size, effective key size. So what they thought of, why not go with a double DES or a double encryption using the same DES? So then came the concept of double DES, and it had few drawbacks, and that is the reason why triple DES came into picture. So I will focus upon that in detail. So Jimit, you are having one more doubt. Those are, yeah, I was talking about the sub keys that time, the 48-bit sub keys. Yes, any doubts? Any more doubts? Okay, fine. Okay, so let's move on with double DES. We still have 10 minutes. Okay, just have a look at this diagram and this expression over here. Can anyone tell me what exactly is happening? Just have a look at this diagram and try to explain me what exactly is happening. Okay, fine. Repeating the same thing, but what is different over here? What is different in this case? The key, correct. So now if I'm asking you a very practical question, can you compare this with any of the existing block modes that we have studied so far? Can you compare this with the operation modes that we have studied in the last lectures? Any one of the modes. It is exactly similar to that. Try to recollect. You have to study your previous topics very well before understanding the next few topics. We have seen the 5 operation modes, right? So which is the operation mode that explains this particular concept? What are we making use of? Obviously, yes, correct, it's a feedback. But what is the feedback? What exactly are we sending? Which feedback? Is it output feedback or, yes, Dhruv, what is the feedback that we are using? It is cipher feedback. Isn't it evident? The plain text is getting encrypted with a key, and we are getting the ciphertext, and we are making use of that ciphertext as input for the next round. Yes or no? Isn't it the cipher feedback? Harsh, that was a columnar transposition cipher. We are not talking about transposition ciphers over here. It's basically a block cipher. Yes or no? And we are doing substitutions. It's a combination of substitution and transposition. We can't say that it is entirely based on a double transposition or columnar transposition. We are making use of substitution as well as transposition, as you had seen in the previous explanation. Whatever we did, the expansion permutation was nothing but transposition only, right? Similarly, S boxes are nothing but substitution only. So we are making use of both of them in tandem, in parallel, right? So check this diagram carefully. What we are doing is we are getting the plain text. We are encrypting that with a 56-bit key. Whatever is the result of that operation, we are encrypting that once again with another 56-bit key. So in total, we have an effective key length of 112 bits. Yes or no? The same thing has been written mathematically over here. Ciphertext is nothing but, first of all, check the internal bracket, inner bracket, and then move on with this bracket. So it is nothing but the plain text is encrypted using key 1, and the result of that is encrypted using K2, key K2. Yes or no? I guess it is clear now. It should be clear now. Fine. The exact reverse is performed in the decryption. Decryption is nothing but like this. Again, the same thing. Whatever result you will get, decrypt it with K2 and K1, and you will get the answers. Fine. Any doubts with this? One of the simplest techniques. But can you find out a drawback for this? What was the need for triple DES to come into picture? Check this diagram once again. What is the need for triple DES to come into picture? You want me to give it as a homework? Think on it, and then let me know in the next lecture. Fine. In the meantime, simply let me show this. Just read it out. In the meantime, let me drop in the attendance link. So take a question. What is the drawback of double DES? Fine. And how to overcome that. You don't need to write anything. Just prepare it. Dhruv, let me tell you, let me tell every one of you, this entire block that you see over here, we can simply say that this block is not a single block. It is basically an entire DES operation running inside. Yes or no? This is one DES, this is the other DES. Am I clear? So from an overview point of view, you can say that it is just a simple box. It is not a box. It is the entire DES that you have studied just now in this entire 1 hour lecture. The entire thing is happening inside that box. Am I clear? So each and every operation that you have seen just now in this 1 hour lecture, all of those operations are being performed in that single box. Am I clear? The only thing is it is getting repeated twice. So it's not a question of not having the XOR method. XOR is inside that box. Every operation that you have seen just now, it is inside that box. Just the thing is, it is happening twice. Everything else remains same. Fine. So my question for you all is, what is the drawback of double DES and how to overcome that? Fine. So I expect answers from you in the next lecture. Let me drop in the attendance link.